Live from New York City. I'm going to begin with. Well, I almost was going to sit here reading and have you catch me reading, but you really wouldn't have, and I don't like to act. If you really caught me reading, then it would be okay. But every Wednesday I wait for this. Now I'm already cutting it up, as people say. This is not an advertisement, by the way. This is for your good, for the good of the country, for the good of the republic. The epic or epoch times, depending on your desire. Or I really should officially talk to the owner, and I've written something for them, and I've been interviewed by some of them, but I've never really met. It's originally founded by anti-communist Chinese people, so it does have a great deal of information about China. I mean, about what's going on inside China, but it has a great deal of information about everything, and particularly in this day and age of useless newspapers. I mean, I don't know, maybe I don't know all the newspapers outside of New York. I mean, the only one that's useful in New York, really, well, I'd say that the Wall Street Journal is still useful, but slipping, really slipping. The New York Post is very useful. And I do disagree with it because they have this big thing on Donald Trump. I mean, they've got this. I can't use the word, but you know what I'm thinking. They have this thing with it, But I don't know if they're forced to do it by the Fox regime, because Fox has become a totally different animal than it used to be under Roger Ailes and Rupert. And since it's been since they've had me off for about 2 or 3 years, or censored me for 2 or 3 years, I'm not sure I really know Fox now. Used to know it intimately. I really have something to do with its being on the air. So, but this Epic Times, it really gives you a lot of stuff you don't get elsewhere. I'll just give you a couple of examples. Americans on prescription drugs for half their lives. IRS contractor admits to Trump tax leak. I didn't hear that anyplace else, right? Charles Littlejohn, right? New chip regulations on China. The question is, will Biden enforce them? He's sort of got, it's an area where he's a little compromised. Trump gag order raises questions. Good article about the First Amendment rights issued there. Then there's an article about Israeli rescue workers describing the horrors at the attack sites, what they found there. And then the one I was just reading, former border chief warns of Hamas terror threat on U.S. soil. This is really an interview with Mark Morgan. Mark was the former acting commissioner of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Service under President Trump. I think you have seen him on Newsmax, maybe on Fox as well. And he's very, very articulate and very smart, and he did a hell of a job. Please, if we could only have him back. And basically, he's telling you what he's telling you what the president should be telling us, or the administration, but they're useless. And that is that the threat of terror attack on the U.S. soil has increased quite a bit, because of the large number of people who have come in, both modestly detected, let's put it that way, or undetected completely. Now, you always have to go by what the numbers that you have. So we figure that I'm going to give you a very, very modest sort of analysis of how many come in that are completely undetected. In other words, they come across a portion of the border that is completely unpatrolled, and there's more and more of those, the more our resources are stretched, and our resources are stretched now more than ever before. I think all of that is true. I think if Mark were here, he would tell you that. We'll try to get him here. In fact, if I knew I was going to read this, I would have tried to have him on to explain this, because he does it better than I do. So we had about 2 million people come in last year that we stopped in some way or another. Some of them were sent back, very few. Most were let in under some kind of a make believe, phony legal status. Many of them in this asylum claim, where they say they're fleeing persecution, but they're really not. When they do finally get a trial, which sometimes is 3 or 4 years later, it's only about 5% of them that turn out to be valid. So you can get an idea what a joke it is, right? So you got about we have 2 million we basically count. So now you can use different formulas. Uh, Formulas would go anywhere from 50% of that number comes in undetected to 200% of that number comes in undetected. In other words, two to one. So, I mean, it could be anywhere from 1 million undetected to 4 million undetected. So let's say 2 undetected. And necessarily those would be your worst cases, particularly the way it operates right now at the border, because the people that are let in almost uniformly. I guess they miss a few, but almost uniformly by the Mexican cartels. So when they let somebody in who is definitely not going to be detected, that is a big bonus. I mean, they're going to ask for big money for that. So that who's going to be able to play that big money? The drug dealers from China, the Chinese spies, the Al Qaeda and the remnants of Al Qaeda, ISIS, the Islamic terrorist groups, Hezbollah, Hamas, the ones we're talking about right now, all been doing business with the cartels for 20 years. Even pre 9/11, they were doing business with the cartels. Now, big time. And of course, human trafficking, which is at an all-time high, all because of Joe Biden's delinquency, his failure to enforce the, in almost any way at all, the immigration laws of the United States, his disobeying them. So the last 11 months, they picked up 151 that were on the terror watch list. Whoa. I don't know if we ever had a year in which we picked up that many. They picked up and let through. They describe it as tens of thousands. I'd really like to get a harder number for that, but they say tens of thousands here in the article, known as special interest. Now, special interests come from those countries that have a high degree of terrorism or are terrorist countries. Like you would describe Iran as a terrorist country, right? Yemen, Lebanon, look pretty terrorist today. Egypt, Pakistan are the 5 that were given for the tens of thousands number. But Mark's point is there are more of them in the country than ever before. And if I think of New York, because of defunding the police by $1 billion, there are less police by a lot to deal with it than even on September 11. I mean, the reduction is quite dramatic, actually. So he's saying to law enforcement, step things up and be very vigilant and review all of your terrorism protocols, because what you're seeing at least should put a prudent person, a prudent law enforcement person and political person who has responsibility for other people's lives on notice that something could happen here. The people are here to do it. They've got free reign to come in. There's bare minimum last year among those 500,000 to 1 million that came in completely undetected has to be a fair number of terrorists. Because why? Think of yourself for a moment. Put yourself in the position of a terrorist, a Chinese communist, a drug dealer. Wouldn't you take advantage of the border? Would you just like sit there wide open? It's like come in. Sucker country lets you come in. Come on in. Come on in and rape us. We're just in here. Our door is wide open. It's wide open. You remember we showed you the pictures of the actual part of the wall that Trump put up where they opened the gates? How ridiculous is that? Well, it becomes not ridiculous and not funny when you listen to Mark, who tells you in this heightened environment, there's no question we're seeing an increase in reported threats. So I'm sorry, this is Chris Wray. And we've got to be on the lookout, especially for lone actors who may take inspiration from recent events to commit violence of their own. You know, he can actually never be right, Chris Wray. I don't know if it's because he's a liar or he's not too bright, but the real increased danger right now is the danger of lone wolves has been there forever and will be there forever. It could be heightened by the fact that there's an awful lot of activity going on now that would sort of excite them, right? But the real threat now is there's no question we have more terrorists here, unless the terrorists are stupid. You open the gate for them. You could have actually, Biden could have actually put up a sign. If you're smart enough to evade our depleted border forces that are seriously depleted and ridiculously overworked, and you're willing to spend some money with the cartels to even increase your chances of getting in undetected, you've got probably 20 to 1 odds you're not going to be caught. Now, you're not much of a terrorist if you don't take advantage of that, right? Or drug dealer. You got to be really stupid if you don't take advantage of it. And they do. And that's why we're in more difficulties. The hospital attack. We watched it very, very quickly last night. Mike brought us a clip that had been analyzed actually in the original edition of Al Jazeera with a pretty strong indication that they saw it as an aborted Islamic terrorist group. I think the name of the group is the Palestinian. I may get it right. Palestinian Islamic Jihad. But now, if you get to the later editions of Al Jazeera, now it's become more of a up in the air. It could be. I mean, how can Al Jazeera give up the fact of making some kind of false accusation against Israel? I mean, that's like saying the terrorists aren't going to send people across the border if you leave them open, right? So now in Al Jazeera, but they still, I mean, to their credit, and I hate to give credit to Al Jazeera, they still leave open the possibility that it's an aborted attack. It's a missile gone haywire, which apparently happens with 20 to 25% of their missiles during the recent attack. They make them in the garage or something. They're not. I mean, they did tremendous damage to Israel because they sent so many of them over, but they actually did damage themselves with the rockets they hit Israel, which I didn't realize. But before Israel, in fact, we should have realized it when we first saw the first day of Israeli shelling, which really wasn't very intense, but there was a lot of damage. They had done their own damage to themselves on the 7th. Somewhere between 20 and 25% of the rockets in some way misfire, and a certain percentage, I don't know that percentage, but I know the percentage that misfire, but the percentage that come back or create the damage in Gaza is pretty high. Remember, we're talking about a very, very constricted space, right? Very, very constricted. And so if it misfires, now from everything I've read, but you never can convince them, right? You could come to a pretty solid conclusion that this was a misfired Islamic Jihad, or whatever that group is, rocket, for lots of reasons, particularly start with common sense. This makes no sense for Israel to do this. Even if you think Israel is that craven that they would do something like this, which I know they're not, but it would not be, it's not in their interest to do it because they're gonna get hurt by that. It is in the interest of, and the theory of Hamas to do it, because they are a terrorist group. That's what they want to do. They want to strike fear in your heart. They want to take advantage of their smaller resources and smaller influence by doing something very, very frightening that disrupts our society. And therefore, it's in their interest to kill children. I put morality aside for a moment because they have no morality. There's also, but nobody would buy this on their side, the Israelis are on a different level of morality, which is why you should never have a moral equivalence between a terrorist state and a functioning democracy, republic democracy, with a rule of law, an imperfect one like ours and everyone else's, but one. The other doesn't have that. The other one is a combination of people running them who are terrorists or retired terrorists who are now retired into being thieves and stealing from them. So, and from what we can tell, let's first take a look. If we can put that on, Ted, for a minute, just a brief minute here. I don't know if you can see that too well. It's a black and white one. It's a black and white one. It might not be the right one to use. Can you see it?
We can.
Okay, so you can see you can see where Gaza is. This is where the hospital is in Gaza, right? Okay, right here. Just right across here is Israel. So it was right here. This is all of it, basically, all of the strip. Well, it's called the Gaza Strip because it's rather small. But the point of it is that from what we can tell, it hit the parking lot of the hospital. Is that doable now, Ted?
Flip it.
Like that?
Flip it. That's right. Almost right.
All right, that good now?
Yes, sir.
So now, if you notice that, this is where the damage was done. This is the parking lot of the hospital, right? You see, it's the parking lot of the hospital. There's the hospital building itself. The written reports say that the hospital itself, as we thought last night, wasn't hit, but the parking lot was hit. That then did damage to the hospital. Now, that's borne out by the fact that there is a lot of video of people inside the hospital. You see almost like chaos inside the hospital, but you also see sort of control, like doctors and nurses and taking people in. They're actually treating people in the hospital. So it looks like, and this is from the footage that we have, so this is not, do not take this as a conclusive analysis. When we get more footage, I'll give you one. It looks like the hit was mostly, if not completely, in the lot, which I think is a parking lot. You see the cars that are destroyed there?
Gotta be. Yeah.
And okay, there's an upturned car. There's a little small crater right there. There's a burnt out vehicle. Then you have some roof tiles on this side. But the big structure of the hospital here looks like it's okay over here and over there in the corner. That's also supported by the fact that there is video. I'm not sure we kept that from this afternoon. If we have that, maybe you can look for that, Ted, and show some of that later. But if you play that video, you'll see after the bombing that they are using the inside of the hospital. So I mean that's sort of.
ونحن نشير إلى أن هذه المدينة هي الأكثر تعرضا للصواريخ منذ بداية هذه الحرب. عمدة المدينة كانت تحدث قبل أيام عن أكثر من 1000 صاروخ طال هذه المدينة وأكثر من 170 صاروخا سقط بالفعل في داخلها وأحدث دمارا في البنى التحتية وفي السيارات وفي المباني العامة والخاصة.
شكرا جزيلا لك الياس كرم حتى اللحظة، وسنعود إليك في إطار هذه التغطية التي ستتابعها معكم سلمى الجمل. إليك سلمى.
شكرا ازدهار.
Ted will now translate. No, so that explosion that you saw, that is the hit on the hospital or the parking lot of the hospital. There are better shots that I've seen closer up, but still that from that angle, it's not definitive that it's the parking lot and not the hospital. But you can see that it hits in that area. That was used last night to say that from the trajectory of the rocket, that looked like one that had been fired inside of Gaza. And that was on Al Jazeera. I told you it's been changed or amended to could be, not definitive. It was much more definitive last night. So when you look at where the damage was done, you can see pretty clearly that it was done in the parking lot. There's even a closer, there's like just one angle of the parking lot. You can see the structure up, right? And the parking lot is destroyed. Now, the number of dead has ranged. Mostly, it's in the high 400s to 500. But there have been some reports down in the 300s. So I think we better wait a little, or maybe higher. Who knows? Because you might find some bodies under.
But as you said before, Mayor, Hamas is the one reporting the immediate casualty count. It's in there.
We're in the hands of people who chop babies' heads off.
And it's in their interest to make that number as high as possible.
And it was in their interest to hit that hospital.
And 500 plus, that's a shocking
and they're not
number,
gonna, they're not,
right?
Look.
And they got the reaction they wanted from across the Arab world and larger communities.
I mean, it's very, very hard to believe in coincidence in a situation like this. That something that would be helpful to their propaganda happens just when they want it to happen. Israel is so stupid as to do it for them. When in fact, the first reaction of the experts, including the Arab experts, is, oh, it's a Hamas rocket. The hit is on a parking lot, not the hospital. The hospital's there. And the other thing you're going to see, if we could dig it out, is you'll see in the aftermath of the attack, people got into the hospital, took pictures in the hospital, and you'll see people being treated in that hospital. So the hospital survived. It isn't as if all the people in the hospital got killed. Now, when you look at the damage left behind, I'm even going to question whether 500 is the right number. I mean, I question it. I'm not saying it's not true. I'd say that when you look at the damage, both that and the one I showed you before, there were 500 people in the parking lot. I mean,
Mayor, you have a lot more experience than I in this area. I don't only question it. I mean, that immediate number is met with skepticism immediately, right? In the fog of war, when a side like that comes out, as if they know the total right away too.
And again, if we could find that, if you can look around during the rest of the show and see if we can find that, you'll see that the hospital was quite active in taking care of people after this happened. So I don't know. You have to be very, very skeptical. You have to be very, very skeptical about what happened. But I would say that it is a pretty good conclusion, and I think it will stand the test of analysis in time, that this was a rocket from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad that went awry. Now, did they do it purposely because they wanted the publicity? No, hard to believe, isn't it? But is it hard to believe when, remember, just a day or two before, the two governments, well, you're seeing pictures right now. We'll talk about that later, Ted, so we can take that off. That's the embassy, the attacks on the embassy today. The reality is, just a little bit before, day or two ago, and for about 4 or 5 days, Israel's been sending out circulars, letters, videos. Get out of there. Get out of the way. Get out of harm's way. Go north, or rather go south, go to the border. They thought at one point, go to Egypt. Egypt doesn't want Palestinians. Neither does Jordan. But our left-wing Americans and Nikki Haley want them. Our crazy, wacky left-wing Americans that don't get the message. Gee, why does General al-Sisi, who is condemning America and condemning Israel for what they did, but he doesn't want to take a single one of them. And why does the king of Jordan, who embarrassed the president of the United States horribly today and yesterday, called off the meeting with him because, oh, Israel was so bad to these people, but he won't take a single one in. Now, it would be strange for him to take a single one in because he's probably his father threw most of them out. I'm telling you, a million people, a million Palestinians were tossed out of Jordan by his old man and his old man's old man.
The hypocrisy is blinding.
Kuwait will take them?
I'm saying, man.
What about
How about they ask Kuwait? Ask all their neighbors.
Well, Qatar seems to be the most sympathetic, right? They got a lot of money. They could get a million of them.
Yeah.
They only have a million people in Qatar. 900,000, a million people.
And didn't Egypt close the only border crossing with them?
They locked it shut. Like we don't lock our border.
Like, imagine if someone, all right, you have someone come to your door, Mayor, and they need a place to stay. And you, okay, let me ask, I'll ask your former neighbors. Let me ask your former neighbors, how were you? And they all said no. They all shut them out and nope, we don't want a piece of them. You're going to let that guy in your house?
I think it's a good, the answer to this ridiculous, idiotic, left-wing, progressive, whatever name you want to use them, communist, is we're not taking anybody until Jordan takes at least 1 million back. How about that? I actually thought when they talked about the Palestinian Authority way at the beginning 30 years ago, I think this thing was screwed up horribly by Baker and Clinton by the end of the Bush administration, the first one, and then all of Clinton in sucking up to Arafat and trying to do this around the moral equivalency between the Palestinian Authority was ready to be a state, or that we are disciplined enough and honest enough, particularly Clinton, to really require them to improve in order to become a state. I mean, we didn't have much moral suasion under Clinton anyway. So how the hell is he going to get them to straighten themselves out? And really, it then turned out that he wasn't smart enough to realize he's being conned by it. Look, history won't say this because Clinton's a Democrat. It was one of the biggest con jobs of a president ever for years. Arafat got billions out of him, maybe millions for sure, but of the whole group, billions. He got the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't know, he was Man of the Year or something. And all throughout that period of time, he had no intention of making peace, because to make peace would cut off the millions. That's all he cared about. He didn't care about his people. This guy murdered 27 Americans, which should have gotten Billy to, but maybe his brain got soft. Do any of you know? I want to see if anybody can pick. If you will get the Rudy Giuliani Really Smart Person Award if you can make the connection. If you can get what I just said, that his brain might have gotten, that Bill Clinton's brain might have gotten soft, and therefore he got conned by. If you can get that, you're sharp. You're really sharp. And we'll wait till the end of the show. So the hospital hit. It's going to turn out that they did it to themselves, or it could be an accident. It could be an accident because these are not very precise. I mean, they did an awful lot of damage for people that are not very precise, but if they weren't, they would have done 25 to 30% more damage than they did. And they fire on themselves quite a bit. I mean, or backfires on them quite a bit. I mean, I won't say anything because I'll be accused of being a Weisenheimer. But hospital hit. Nobody's going to believe it. You could have we could have pictures of them putting that parking lot on fire. And this is like dealing with, the Trump derangement syndrome when you deal with Israel and the prejudice against Israel and the way in which they twist the truth and won't listen to the truth. And it's terrible because it results in the death of lots of people. So this analysis comes from, want to see if this is BBC. Okay. So we'd say this is a pretty neutral observer, not particularly fond of Israel. They say so far the findings are inconclusive. 3 experts we spoke to say it is not consistent with what you would expect from a typical Israeli airstrike with a large munition. Those are 3 of their major munitions expert. One of them actually from the U.S. at Vanderbilt, and one at the UK Institute, and the third one they just give his name. Flashes in the sky likely indicate the projectile was a rocket with an engine that overheated and stopped working, similar to that used by Hamas. This is all done by BBC, not me. And this doesn't seem to be, from what they can tell, the type of missile that Israel was using. It doesn't bear any relationship to it. And it does say that the experts in analyzing this came to the conclusion that we've come to and what we've looked at. It appears the explosion happened in a courtyard, which is part of the hospital site. Images of the ground after the blast do not show significant damage to the hospital buildings. What the images do show are scorch marks on the ground and burnt out cars. So query, 500 people, hospital, not significant damage. 600 patients and staff were inside the building at the time. Now, they do say that 1,000 people, displaced people, were sheltered in the courtyard when it was hit. So if that number 500 is correct, it would have been those people in the courtyard who largely tragically lost their life, and not the patients in the hospital. I don't know if that makes any difference, but the truth is the truth. Not that they're going to care about it, right? Why don't we take a short break, and when we come back, we'll discuss. When we talk about the threat in the United States, but we got Americans who are at risk overseas, and our feckless president did nothing for them in his. That had to be the briefest stay ever. But in whatever he attempted to accomplish today, he certainly didn't accomplish saving any American lives.
The year is 2022. Cancel culture is the new normal. Online freedom as we know it has ended. Digital stockades are here. All activity is monitored, stored, and predictively analyzed by a technological cartel. We're being converted into a digital resource, a digital currency to be farmed for metadata and loaded into a computerized combine, blockchained to a social engineering operating system. However, it doesn't have to be this way. Be part of a new technological revolution. Right now, 1,000 test pilots have launched themselves into a new digital frontier, a private network outside big tech control. New technology with state-of-the-art digital engagement and never-done-before security and privacy features that are now operational. With Quick's digital engagement, entertainment, communication, and commercial exchange will never be the same. We are QUX. Quicks. Advanced pre-release sales are limited to 3,000. Order now by visiting Quicks.tv. Get yours now before they sell out. Be part of a brand new online experience that you control.
Ready?
Tell me one.
Okay. You know what that is, right? Balance of nature time for Rudy Giuliani. This is it.
That's our own little thing.
Balance of nature.
Veggies, fruits. Now, there's an article in today's New York Post, which is a must read. And then after you read it, order this. How? Come on. What are you guys asleep?
Go to the.
No.
After you
Sorry,
read-
no. Go to balanceofnature.com and be sure to use that promo code Rudy. Use
Yeah.
that promo code. Do your body a favor, but you're also doing your mind a favor by supporting
Yeah.
everything we're doing here. So it's important that you not only go to balanceofnature.com, but that you also punch in that promo code Rudy, RUDY. Rudy.
Okay. So I'm going to get you the article a little later because I want to talk a minute about the attack today on the embassy. And do we have some? We have. I know we have.
Here's some pictures.
We have any.
We have video from last night. We'll play that.
Well, let's look at the pictures first. You can see it's a pretty. This looks like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, doesn't it? This looks like the one I remember with the CNN reporter standing there saying, the one down here.
Peaceful.
Like the reporter would be like right there saying, "The Black Lives Matter riot is a very peaceful riot." Boom, bam, smash, boom, ah! There's you can see it's a pretty substantial riot. If all these people would be released if it were in America and we were in a Soros DA town, as all the ones were released in 2020. It's just Republicans and conservatives who don't do anything like this, but do other things that are not nice, but they go to prison like for life or something like that. But these people, and there's the embassy. You see the crowd in front. The crowd had actually gotten even larger than that. That's not a particular. There's another shot of how bad it was. I mean, we're talking real damage here, boys and girls. I mean, here, let me put this way so you see it better. But this is now once again watching this morning, because we watched a lot of this live this morning. I'm thinking, gee, after Benghazi, you'd think they'd have these places protected more, wouldn't you? I mean, I would think so. I mean, I certainly would, but I brought crime down more than any mayor in history, and Biden has brought crime up more than any president in history. So I guess he's not particularly good at saving people's lives. I sure would not want to be an ambassador with him as president. Would you? I wouldn't. Wouldn't feel very safe that he come and rescue me. He seems to have a different rule than our other presidents who would not leave Americans behind. He seems to not care if he leaves them behind. Like he seemed like he got out of Israel as fast as he could. He sure didn't use the moral suasion of the presidency to tell these guys, "You be giving me my people back, or you're going to be very, very sorry." I mean, it's pathetic. It's pathetic when he makes his attempts at a threat. It's like watching a mouse threaten a lion. He has this new one now where he says, don't. I have to imagine the Hamas terrorists and the Hezbollah terrorists, when they hear that, they must just quake in their boots. It's completely ridiculous. It doesn't go there and give any kind of moral support to those poor hostages that are being held. I mean, does he have a plan to rescue them?
Yeah, he's totally unprepared for the question, you know?
He didn't say. He answered some questions eventually. Was he on the airplane when he answered the questions, Ted? During the two talks that he gave, he just walked out and didn't answer any questions. He just took off.
Like he always does.
Yeah. Like it's not. I mean, this is enormously important to the world. I can't imagine a Trump or a Reagan or a Bush or maybe even a Clinton or even Obama not answering questions.
It kind of demonstrates he has no recall capability whatsoever. They might be able to give him one little task, and after that, that's it. He can't remember.
I mean, how do you calm? How do you expect to calm people if you just go there and read a statement and not answer any questions? I mean, you could have just sent a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Just send over a piece of paper. What the hell do we need him there for? What does he have? Just send a piece of. Somebody would have read it better than he did. The morning one was. Man. Wow, did he look bad?
And then the media talking heads come in and then they save him. They talk for him, probably, I get, right?
Yeah, they don't get outraged that he's not answering questions.
Right.
He takes them all the way to Israel to fly there to read a 4 or 5 paragraph statement that somebody else wrote. And then he goes into his cage and doesn't answer any questions. And they traveled thousands of miles just to take a picture of him stumbling over his words. I mean,
He's like Fetterman. Hello, everybody. Good night.
So, what is the condition? So I do not believe they breached in any way the walls of the embassy yet.
Not yet.
But if you watch that crowd and you say, "Oh my goodness, that thing could build up,"
Yes, sir.
I would say we better get those people out of there now. Now, to get this administration to act expeditiously and wisely with wisdom is almost impossible. Some of the areas they're in, I know something about. This is an area I know as much about as anybody, security. And if I run this ship, these people are back by now. Oh, by the way, I'd be making every effort to get our people back.
That's right.
And not by begging for them, not by saying don't, but by making it clear to them that if Israel's goal is that they're going to all be eliminated, if we don't get our people back safe and sound, if Israel somehow fails in it, I'll make sure it happens. But you better give me my people back because I have a long memory. And we can do a lot to help Israel. And then we can do even more to help Israel. And then we can do even more to help Israel. And you kill one of my people, you're not going to exist anymore. Got it? So give him back. Give him back and leave America alone. That's what he's supposed to do as our protector. We have to protect him. So
Awful. Just embarrassing.
now, the big gap in all of this, and I had a very good discussion with Michael Goodwin today, on my radio show. Michael is premier columnist for the New York Post. And he noticed this in his column. And of course, I've been saying this for some time. This is all a waste of time on his part. If you don't confront the real actor here, the real prime mover, the one that if you get rid of Hamas, you've accomplished something, but not much, because they'll just use Hezbollah. This is Iran. We've got to deal with Iran. And he I don't know if he lies about it or he's got himself convinced of, but he says there's no evidence of Iran being involved. That's just absurd. It couldn't have happened without Iran. Hamas would not have done what it did without Iran. We have intelligence. At least it's been leaked. Maybe it's wrong, but the leaked intelligence says we've had notice of their being trained by Iran going back over a year. You want extra proof? Hezbollah would not have fired rockets into Israel unless they got the go-ahead from the reign of terror. They run the show. And instead of acting and playing their game and acting like an idiot who is submissive to them, why don't you go in their face and say you know that? And you're going to hold them accountable for it. Maybe you slow them down. Trump figured out how to slow them down and just about bankrupt them. And you saved them. You just started giving them money as soon as he came into office. What's wrong with you and Obama? What the hell do you see in Iran? I mean, what do you love about Iran? I know maybe you're communists and you like some of these communist countries that kill their people, like China, that kills 60 million of their own people. But Iran? What is it about Iran? That you give them cash, hundreds of millions in cash? If you weren't Obama and you weren't a Democrat protected prince, you'd be in jail for doing that. And you were hiding that. You got caught doing it like a slimy drug dealer.
I've always wondered, man, why are we giving money to other countries? Not just money, we're giving billions, right, to these people. Why?
Well, why? Iran? Oh, that's Iran's money. We seized it, so we're going to give it back to them. But why should we give it back to them if we seized it? We seized it for a reason. Well, Iran is the force here that is driving this whole thing. And just in case, Iran's Revolutionary Guard's Deputy Commander-in-Chief, Ali Fadavi, made the following threat, which is that if Israel continues its attack, it will face another shockwave of attacks by militant groups. If it doesn't halt its relentless bombardment of Gaza. Now that comes from Iran's Revolutionary Guard Deputy Commander-in-Chief Ali Fadavi. Biden, idiot. That's some proof of their involvement. We have no proof of their involvement. That's some proof of their involvement. I mean, I know we don't have the proof of their involvement like we have the proof that you're a major, massive 30-year crook and your whole family's crooked, where we've got everything, tapes, confessions, videos, texts, contracts, bank records. I know we don't have quite that, but we got enough. Well, we're going to take a short break and we'll be back and we'll take a look at this this debate that's going on with the professors and the colleges and American businesses, because there's much more of a debate now than ever before, which is a good thing. Could I have my Son of the Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. Sean is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Let's go earlier and then that. Welcome back. Welcome back to everyone that had the benefit of, was that the Balance of Nature commercial?
The new T2T commercial.
The new T2T commercial.
Not
That's
two
Tunnel
different-
to Towers. $11 a month to help our men and women in uniform who are seriously injured or who lose their lives. You can't do anything better than that. I'm telling you, that's a number one priority. So let's take a look and you make a judgment as to whether this helped Israel, hurt Israel, helped America, hurt America to see this performance on, and it was worth the trip. Oh, and all the damage to climate change that he did, right? I mean, how does
years ago, I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for him, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it, I'll wait later. Take it.
He didn't finish the quote.
He forgot what
Oh, he forgot it.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was his way of, okay.
I'm telling you, I mean, I don't think you can contradict it if I tell you that half the people in nursing homes can do better than that.
Can we play that again?
Yeah. Play that again. I mean, why don't they throw him out? I mean, the guy shouldn't. I mean, if you're an American, this is the guy that's protecting us. Listen to this. He's got the little button.
Years ago, I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for him, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it, I'll wait later. Take it.
This guy is a joke.
It would be a joke if he didn't kill so many people.
Yeah.
If he didn't get so many people killed with his incompetence. I mean, somebody should do like a calculation. Like all the people in Ukraine never would have died if he didn't become president. Putin never would have attacked.
How do you put a price tag
Well,
like that? How do you put anything on
Watch this next clip and check out Secretary Blinken here. You see that?
Do you want me to play a couple of his, the ones I have here, be a little faster. We can just go right to it.
Let's do it.
Let's see if I can find it here.
I have some from his plane we can play while you look.
Oh yeah. Put a couple on in the plane.
That's all personal. Look, I spent an hour and a half about with 17 or 18 before. And I don't know how to say this. Virtually every mass shooting, every circumstance where a large number of people have been victimized and lost, I've spoken with them. I learned a long time ago, which you've all learned in your life as well. when someone's going through something that is beyond their comprehension that they ever thought they'd have to go through, if they see someone who they think understands or maybe been through something not the same but similar, it gives them some sense of hope. And I always get criticized sometimes by my staff because when I go to these events, I stay for 3 and 4 hours and answer all their questions. But it matters. It matters a lot.
Oh, I can find it. We're back. I can.
Let's see if I can find that.
I can look for don't.
Yeah, no, this is the one. This is the one here. I want you to just listen to this because he repeated this in Israel. He repeated. I guess he likes this. You know, I guess when you have a demented brain, these things kind of stick in it.
There's limited fighting already on the northern Israeli border, and I wonder what is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran? Don't come across the border. Don't escalate this war.
That's right.
Wow, that's what those news people do. They help him. They fix his stupidity.
He filled out the sentence for him.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what they did during the debate. That's what that woman did during the debate with Trump. She filled out the sentences for him.
Right.
And we end up him as president. He can't complete a sentence. What?
Mothers do that to their children who are just learning English.
But how ridiculous is it if you want to deliver? I mean, he's delivering a threat, right?
Yeah.
There's no bones about it. It's a threat. He's saying, I'm going to, who knows what it is. He's trying to convey, I'm going to do something to you. You're going to pay a heavy price if you attack Israel. That's what he's trying to say. He can't even articulate that. How can you be the leader of a country when you can't articulate a threat to protect your country or your allies? Isn't that grounds to throw you out? Because our lives are at stake. If nobody takes this seriously. I mean, it is not a joke that this man is falling apart in front of our eyes because he has heavy responsibilities. And whoever is making the decisions for him makes some of the most incredibly stupid decisions that ever been made in American history. I didn't even want to bother cataloging them, going through Afghanistan and Bagram Air Base and people that have died because of him. And that there you're trying to convince terrorist groups they're going to pay a heavy price, and you can't articulate it. All you can get out is don't, and then Pele has to finish it for you. Now, if we could find the one he did in Israel, he had nobody finish it. Netanyahu didn't finish it for him. He just stands there saying, don't. Which way do I go? Maybe remember what was the fairy tale where they put down the little crumbs? Was it Hansel and Gretel so they could get back?
I think it was Hansel and Gretel.
And then somebody ate the crumbs so they couldn't get back, I think.
Yeah.
Well, they should put like little things down for them, like an arrow, like that, you know.
Yeah.
Like they should have, or if you could, like you're over there. And then I'm finished now, and I'm about ready to get up, and I don't know which way to go. You go like that way.
Isn't it kind of odd?
I used to have that when I used to introduce Donald Trump.
What's that?
Well, because I used to have to do
Protocol.
I had to. It was really fun. I had to do a 2-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute. Every once in a while, a 15-minute introduction, depending on how much time he spent in the back schmoozing with the people he's taking pictures with. Because his general routine was when he did the rallies, you know, and we did them like
a lot.
We did 3 or 4 a day. So he'd come in, there'd be a crowd of people, there'd be a whole bunch of people speaking beforehand, before we even got there. When we got there, we had our little group that would get up and speak. But then when he was going to get ready to come on, I would go out and introduce him. That's my job, one of my jobs. So I had constructed a 2-minute speech when he's ready, 5-minute speech, and a 10-minute speech. And Johnny, his body guy, and I had a hand signal. Like if it was 2 minutes, He'd come out within about a minute and go, or he'd go, and I'd say, okay, then I get it over with. And now, the next president of the United States. And then if we get, then he'd come out at 1 or 2 minutes and he'd go,
A little bit more, a little bit more.
and I'd look at him, try to get a little indication, and he'd go, okay, most of the time it came in at around 5, 6, had a couple of 10s.
And you struggled with filling that time, right, Mayor? You struggled, knowing you?
Here's where I had to start over. At 10 minutes, I had run out of all my material. He comes out at 10 minutes and he's going like this. He must have gotten into like a big discussion with somebody.
Yeah. Oh, come on. But Mayor, if there's someone that can keep the crowd.
No, what I did was I just
keep
repeated.
the crowd amped up, it's Mayor Giuliani.
Well, the crowd is so great. All you do is keep repeating the same thing. And they just go crazy, you know. And your next president should be Donald Trump.
And you're a humble guy, but that's like saying, that's like you're getting 2 main events, right?
Nah.
You get President Trump, and before that, you get Mayor Giuliani.
No, but
those were the days.
That was fun. That was fun.
You must have traveled
we traveled everywhere. I mean,
all over the country.
What energy he's got! Wow. I mean, me too. But I mean,
yes, you too.
I have great energy.
Yeah.
So, do we have him just walking out today? I believe it or not, I have him walking out. I have him walking out on audio, and it sounds terrible.
We'll play this one. MSNBC. Notice how MSNBC cut away real quick, right? They don't want.
So we've got protests going on back and forth down in Washington Square Park. They do it again tonight. Last night they had the pro-Hamas and the pro-Israel demonstrators. Now, you know, when they say pro-Hamas demonstrators, you got to step back for a second. I think you did before when we talked about this because you noted it, Rob.
Justine?
No, the pro-Hamas, take the word Hamas out and use their designation. Pro-official terrorist organization. Hamas is a registered terrorist organization under United States law. It's also been found to be a terrorist organization by just about every civilized country and organization. So it isn't like a crazy opinion just of ours. They just got finished killing babies. And it's one thing to have a demonstration because you believe the police acted.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a justifiable cause for your.
Yeah, and you understand that people get confused about it and whatever.
Yeah, we just beheaded babies, and now we want to protest.
What is this? This has to indicate at the educational level. I mean, our educational system is really rotten.
It's the normalization of it.
Yeah, it's really, really rotten. Washington Square Park on Tuesday night, there were 400 or 500 pro-Palestinian demonstrators, and they calculate about 200 or so pro-Israeli demonstrators. Now, to their credit, I don't think there was any violence, so I'll give them credit for that. Right. And I don't know if this was an orchestrated one. I think this was pretty much students. The one that Ted went to the other day was an orchestrated one because they had censors, speech censors, official ones with outfits on that would come over and tell
green vest
and tell the people to shut up.
Yes.
Don't talk. Now that's really strange because you're there to speak. You're there to exercise your right of free speech. You're there to protest, which is to get your message across.
And you're not allowed.
But your message is so terrible, so awful. You're so worried about it that you can't talk about it. All you can do is hold a sign saying dumb, stupid things like end the occupation to which I really wanted to go there and
Nice
say,
to everybody.
hey, you can all go home. I got good news for you. I have good news for all you Occupy people.
The occupation
It
is over.
ended 17 years ago. I brought videos of when it ended and the Israelis left.
Can you imagine if we went over there after the radio show and the mayor gets out of the car with a
And
bullhorn
2 years later,
Great news.
2 years later, the Palestinian people were so fortunate to be put in the hands of Hamas. Yeah, man.
Worked out real good.
They've only probably killed a couple 100,000.
I got good news for you.
That would have been something else, man.
So then we get the swastika at the 2nd Avenue Deli on the Upper East Side.
Mike was talking about that. Yeah.
I mean, come on, that shouldn't happen. And this is a frightening article. I want you to look at the headline from the Post on this one. I told you the Post is worthy of reading. The Wall Street Journal is worthy of reading. The rest of the newspapers that I can think of in New York are worthy of something else. And I don't know the newspapers around the country, but you got to get the Epoch Times or Epoch Times. It's better than the two of them. But read that. That's a scary headline. Read it.
Rising
anti-Semitism strains Germany.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I was in Vienna. Oh gosh, about 17 years ago, representing the United States, representing President Bush at the conference on anti-Semitism, heading the American delegation. And I have to tell you, of all the European countries that were helping in dealing with the Germany was the best. They gave us the most help. And then I became aware of these laws, like, for example, Justice Minister Marco Buschmann has said that local authorities should instruct the police to gather evidence of any anti-Semitic offenses so they can be systematically prosecuted. As of next year, foreign anti-Semitic offenders will be barred from obtaining German citizenship. Well, okay, now that you could say that's an overreaction to the Shoah, but this is how tough they are.
law and order.
Yeah, but there's something a little bit deceiving about this stuff. And if I were German, I'd be all upset about this. Who do you think is doing the anti-Semitism? Think the Germans are?
Jewish?
The Muslims.
Oh,
Yeah. Yep. Hours after the attacks in Israel, Muslims in one Berlin neighborhood were handing out candy as they reveled in the results of the attack. In the sinister echo of the 1930s, some homes in Berlin were marked with the Stars of David. This is the now anti-Jewish sentiment is surging in the country's large and growing Muslim community, much expanded by the country's openness to asylum seekers from the Middle East.
So when Germany says they're going to expel those people, that's the equivalent of saying they're going to expel Muslim people.
Foreign anti-Semitic offenders will be barred from obtaining citizenship.
Absolutely.
That's what it says.
That's good.
But so I think that really,
They're willing to say.
given the sensitivity of Nazi and the Holocaust, this gives a wrong. And when I first saw that, it struck me as strange because my own history with this and being involved in prosecuting Nazis and also leading the delegation and knowing that Germany is very strict on this. I said, the German people are developing anti-Semitism again? Can't be. I mean, they did a pretty good job of wiping that out. And I had a long conversation with the chief rabbi of Berlin about the whole thing, about the strangeness of Germany being the place where it happened and the horrible things that happened there, but also how constructive the German government has been in trying to kind of get rid of the cancer of anti-Semitism. So I didn't get it just from Germans. I got it from Jewish people. So I was shocked to see that. But it isn't them. It's the Muslims.
So they had to leave the world.
And this is thanks to Angela Merkel. She's the one who let all these people in. That's why they got rid of her, ultimately. This is a Soros thing too. This is they not only want to destroy America, get rid of our nationhood, our nationality. They want to destroy Western civilization. You know that. I mean, this is a straight 1,000% attack on Western civilization, Judeo-Christian, Greek. I consider Western civilization built on 3 rocks: Judaism, right? Greek learning, philosophy in particular, and Christianity. Roman Catholicism at the beginning, Rome, both the Roman Empire and then how it merged into being Christian. And then the Reformation, which brought us a lot of our views of the Enlightenment. So no, please don't get offended. This is just a historical comment. No one has this is a great, unbelievable civilization that should be preserved for the benefit of people. This is a beautiful civilization. Of course it has its bad marks because it's conducted by human beings. But at its highest points, it's unmatched. Unmatched. I mean, there are things in Western civilization that almost get you to God. I mean, they almost like the Sistine Chapel, huh? That's Western civilization. Like Beethoven, like the great buildings that people want to go see all throughout Europe, right?
New
and
York
in America,
City. New York City,
New York, absolutely.
the city itself.
New York
What
City,
an amazing
all
place.
right. How about jazz? Jazz is created. The best of jazz is totally improv. I mean, 4 guys sit down in a quartet and they make jazz. And if they're geniuses, they make brilliant jazz. And if they're terrible,
Well, hopefully we'll have many more years of jazz to enjoy if Joe Biden doesn't stumble his way into World War III, taking us all with him.
the communism seeks to remove the culture because it doesn't want to compete with the culture. They're the culture. Culture is stark division and hatred between 2 very defined groups of people, with a third group at the very top called the communist leaders, who all become multimillionaires. Right. The idea that it's this equitable, everybody makes the same. That's true for the serfs. That's not true for Stalin or Khrushchev or the mayor of Leningrad. They're all very wealthy people, as well as in China. I mean, the amount of corruption within the Red Chinese Party is, almost impossible for Americans, other than like the Bidens, to really understand. That would be the level. Biden is the rule of the day in the Red Chinese Party, as opposed to, I hope, an exception. I hope we don't have too many senators and presidents that have taken millions and millions from China.
Yeah, I hope you're right. Yeah.
Oh God, please. I don't have evidence that they do. So, but I didn't.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
I'm lucky I'm alive after what I got on Biden.
What about McConnell, for example?
Let's stick with Biden. I do get a little nervous about McConnell. And the father-in-law, who was a Taiwanese, who somehow is beloved by the Red Chinese government. I didn't think the Red Chinese were in love with the Taiwanese unless they made some kind of concession to you of some kind. But who knows? So, Speaker, let's.
Yeah, that's a good topic.
What do you think? I'm going to have Ted give us a little benefit of his. Did a little research on this today. I heard him on the phone. He was pumping people. He was pumping people today.
He was doing that in the elevator. Right?
No, he was pumping. He was
pumping people for information.
he was trying to get leaks. He was working on leaks as the principal. As the principal in offices in Washington. Now I'm seeing how all the stuff got out.
Yeah.
But go ahead, come on.
Yeah. So
Tell us what you got, Teddy.
So, of course, everyone's aware of the ongoing fight for the gavel, I guess we'll call it.
Where aren't we embarrassed by it?
So Jim Jordan, of course, lost the vote, a second vote today. They're working now on.
He went down by one
third
vote.
vote. He went down. So the first vote he lost by 20. Second vote, I believe, was it 21?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was 21. So an additional vote.
I think they did that to be symbolic.
Well, and here's something I'm hearing now, which is not good news for Jim Jordan. And I think we're all on the record in this room wanting to see Jim Jordan named speaker. So I say this with that in mind. We all here supported Jim Jordan for speaker. I'm now being told there is a chance that the number will continue to go up and that Jim Jordan never had the votes and that they are almost some members of what we'll call the establishment are embarrassing him by having the number increase over time to show that he's losing support. Now that's that would be some petty stuff.
That's gonna leave.
But that could be. I could see it. I could see that being the case. Right?
This is so ridiculous. I mean, he happens to be one of the most popular people in our party.
Yeah, that's right.
If you look at a poll, he's one of the most popular people. I mean, there are very few congressmen that have his popularity and appeal, largely because of his fierce loyalty, I would say, to justice, not just to Donald Trump. He had the same reaction, and so did, maybe 20 of them that I had to injustice. My friends who are on the other side, who used to be my friends, and they love to leak to the newspaper that I've changed. I haven't changed at all.
Not one bit.
They've changed.
Right.
They've lost their sense of justice.
Right.
They've lost their sense of righteous indignation when an innocent man is charged with a crime.
Who could even argue that if you look at what's going on?
Well, they do. They become sick. I mean, they've gotten into this Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, I see it in the cases that I have with the judges, and you can see it in their eyes. I mean, they can't even think logically any longer. They just look for the things that can be twisted around against you or against Trump instead of the bigger thing that's presented to them that indicates that this isn't a crime or this is ridiculous that we're even arguing about this. So here's what I wanted to tell people. There's a great article in the Post, and the Post is getting a lot of free attention from me today.
Yeah.
Epic Times and Post is getting a lot of free attention.
Yeah, we got to hit them up.
But if you go to page 13, I think it is of the Post today, or you get it online, there's a great little article which says, Green Chew Deal. This is about the veggies part. Eat veggies first. Your parents weren't into something when they told you to eat. Your parents weren't onto something when they told you to eat your veggies first. This is written by Alexandra Klausner. Congratulations, Alexandra. This is a very useful article. The practice of eating veggies first is called meal sequencing.
I do it.
Okay. And according to Alabama dietitian Carolyn Williams, veggies can act like weight loss drugs that signal to the body that it's full. You could almost say your vegetables are like your own small form of Ozempic, Williams told the Daily Mail. Now, Ozempic is quite controversial because of a lot of side effects. They increased that GLP-1, and that's part of what slows digestion and slows gastric emptying, she added. When you slow gastric emptying, your carbohydrates aren't going to be digested quite as quickly. Well, basically, it says it is fabulous for reducing the appetite, but then it goes on to tell you all of the benefits that you get from it, which makes the point that I make when I talk to you about this, which is, you know, there are so many supplements that people take to have this vitamin and that vitamin and this vitamin, that vitamin. If you ate, you know, large amounts of vegetables and fruits, you would get all those.
That's right.
Now, that's what this is giving you, because this is large amounts of fruit that have been condensed and vegetables. And this is the vegetable part, but you can make the same argument. Veggies high in fiber include green peas, broccoli, turnip greens, Brussels sprouts, potato with skin. You want to eat the skin of the potato. I love the skin of the potato. I don't know why people don't eat the skin of the potato. And cauliflower, just to name a few.
Vitamin B is rich in the potato skin because it's in dirt. Vitamin B comes from the soil. And so when things are cleansed, they become void of vitamin B.
So
instead of Ozempic, get on balance. Eat your veggies and get your balance of nature. How about that?
Could I say one thing about Jordan? One thing. That's not controversial or anything. I think that
the country of Jordan?
No, Jim.
Oh,
Jordan.
I was actually wondering the same thing. Country of Jordan with what's going on in the Middle East, or Speaker Jordan.
Jim Jordan.
It's interesting though, Jordan.
I had a Biden moment.
No, it was it. They're both in the news.
Jim Jordan, if he does not make it into the speakership, to me, it is almost a demonstration of a uniparty. No? It demonstrates that there's a uniparty. There is no fair Democrat-Republican battle going on over issues. It is a uniparty.
What does that mean, a uniparty?
It means they're all in the tank.
I mean, each person's out for themselves.
Or they're all mixed into the same corruption. The corruption.
Permanent Washington political class. A uniparty meaning one. That there's no real difference between Republicans and Democrats in Washington. People make this argument on why Trump won.
He did get 200 votes. He did get and McCarthy, you know, had a solid 200 votes also. He had a scratch for the rest.
But what Ted was saying is,
and the fact is, and let me play it out a little. If we had won, even if we had won half of what we thought we were going to win in the last election, this would not be a problem, because the people that weren't elected are the people that would have voted for Jordan.
Right.
In fact, if
everybody knows he doesn't have,
I always thought if a big landslide, big red wave, like I thought, McCarthy was gone. They would have wanted a more MAGA speaker.
From the
Bingo.
onset, right?
And Jordan would have been,
That's
right at
great
the top of the list.
That's a very good point.
They didn't want their own speaker, you know, because they took over
Yeah.
the House. But I mean, the people, the fact that there was only 4 instead. At some points, there were thoughts that it might be as high as 30 or 40 or 50.
Bingo.
Right?
Remember? And you're right, Mayor.
At 30 or 40, this would not be a problem.
But I think the best thing for McCarthy might have been, at the time anyway, winning a tight race. Because like you said, if they won by 40, 50 seats, they're all going to want maybe their own
he might have made it, but he would have had a hard time.
Yeah. Where just winning by 3 or 4, he goes to the conference. He tells, look, guys, we just snuck it out.
Well, you just made it, though.
And he did. And then he went through 15 votes.
You know, part of this is nobody's emerged. So you try. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Jordan is finished. It's very hard to beat somebody without somebody. Are they just going to leave McHenry in it? Is that the idea?
So they want to give him more powers, right? They want to give McHenry, they want to give him, I guess, powers that would allow them to conduct what they consider regular business. So I'm guessing there's certain things now that are being held up by not having a speaker that they want to get back to doing. So they'd temporarily empower McHenry, but others, and specifically in the Jordan camp, his team, you could say, they don't like that idea because, and I don't blame them from their perspective, right? That to them would signal, that would take away the sense of urgency. They're trying to benefit from the sense of urgency, right? Like, guys, we got to do this, right? They benefit from that right now because he's the guy. If they empower if they empower McHenry, then that takes away that argument, right?
I meant they'd go permanently with McHenry.
Oh, exactly. That's the other concern, that it would then lead. It's basically, Jordan's people know if they go that route,
I mean, once
lights
you
out
get-
for Jordan.
Once
It
you
may
get,
already be lights out.
once
Sorry,
you,
go
once
ahead.
you get that gavel, it's going to be hard to give it up. Get it away.
Right. Well, especially if they get the rules changed, which is what some are looking to do. They want to change the rules so they can't do what they did to McCarthy. Right. They want to end that.
But the Washington swamp definitely sees Jordan as kryptonite to their cause, just like they see Trump as kryptonite to their cause.
Yeah, he's too Trump.
Yeah.
Trump endorsed him.
Which means he's too much the candidate of the deplorables.
They want to hold on to their underhanded dealing.
Us.
Exactly. They want John
Left and
Boehner's
right.
John.
You
Boehner.
have the you've got the whole movement, the MAGA movement, which are people who have felt excluded that Trump has brought in, and they very, very strongly support Trump, and they very strongly support Jim. It's the establishment Republicans, not all of them, because about half of them have switched, but the half that haven't switched, you got a problem with them. And you can see Pence going back to that now.
Yeah.
He's become like almost a rhino. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
And the media too.
Internationalist
I am
and
here-
an internationalist. I don't mean on domestic conservative issues. I'm talking about the general conservative
They're
issues.
all cowards.
I don't know about that, but
I will say, look, and okay, so you brought up Pence, and
they sure don't represent the little man. That's for sure. The little woman.
Right.
But it reminded me of an old boss who I do still have respect for, Congressman Greg Pence, Mike's brother, and I wanted to see where the congressman went, and he voted for Jim Jordan
Yeah,
on the
I would think
first
so. Yeah,
on the
I would think
first
so.
vote. So I'm not surprised by that. So I will say I have nothing but good things to say about a former boss of mine, Greg Pence. So in Washington, Mayor, I tell people I'm comms director to Pence. That, hey, leave it up for interpretation. Oh, whoa, big shot, Vice President Sky here, right? Yeah.
So is Biden back yet?
So Rob, you were looking at Air Force One there. Not that they give us the live location, but it looks like he's on his way back, Mayor.
He's on his way back. I bet he's,
Quite the short trek. The guy,
you think he's going to remember he was there?
Mayor,
Probably not.
Mayor, the president goes, travels the world to go meet with some foreign leaders. They all canceled, but one. That's one way to look at it, right? They all canceled except for Bibi.
Imagine if you asked him what did he say when you were there? What did you say?
Yeah.
I wonder if he remembers that.
Yeah.
Oh, is he addressing the nation
Don't
tomorrow?
Yes,
Not
tomorrow.
today. Okay,
Yeah.
but that would be a great question. I'd love to ask him when it comes up.
don't.
He probably can't even remember that.
Don't.
And
And then Pelly has to come in and tell him what the don't is. But in any event, we'll call it a night because we're going to be back tomorrow night at 8:00. We'll be back at 3 tomorrow afternoon on WABCRadio.com. All over the country, you can get it on WABCRadio.com at 3. And then we'll be back here 8 tomorrow night, and we'll see where things go. I mean, a lot's going to happen between now and then, particularly what the result we'll find out in terms of action, what the result of the Netanyahu Biden meeting was. Did Biden try to temper Netanyahu's response? That's what a lot of people think. In fact, some people think he would have even threatened him, but I can't see him threatening. I mean, he only does that when he tries to do that hero pathology, that he has. Because I know him, and he's not a tough guy, really. He would never say to your face the stuff that he pretends that he says. When he gets up there and he acts like even the way he did the bribe with Poroshenko wasn't like, you're going to pay me. It was more on the phone, like pleading with him on the phone. I mean, eventually they'll put those tapes out and they'll bury him completely. I mean, he's on the phone. He did it on the phone. He did it on 4 telephone conversations between about February 2nd of 2020 to about February 15th, 16th. There were 4 long conversations, of which we have partial transcripts. But you really want the whole transcript. I mean, it lays out. It's like
When do those get out? After he's out of office?
Who knows? They should be out already. I mean, parts of them have been leaked, that where he approves the new attorney general. No one makes anything of that, but that's really, I mean, imagine approving the new attorney general of another country.
Yeah, he's taking precedent over their politics.
Yeah. Poroshenko, before he names him, calls him and says, Lutsenko is the guy we're going to pick. And he says, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work what? To fix the case.
Right.
Oh, well. You know what we're going to say? We're going to say a prayer, right? We're going to say a little prayer right now. We're going to close. We're going to just close down for about 5-10 seconds. Say a little prayer for the people in Israel, for all the people that are in peril, and for the people in the United States. And then we're going to say, thank God he made us Americans. God bless America. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it.
They'll call me back, but